I'm your host, Tamberwolf, and welcome to another episode of Awoo FM. So, this is kind of weird. It's only episode 2, and already we're gonna jump the shark. We're gonna fucking ride that motorcycle off that ramp and completely change up the format for what we did once, and hopefully we'll do again. But not like that. Asking around and getting some feedback and looking at the metrics and such, it turns out people don't really want semi-regular updates about media and one random dude's opinions about music and movies and stuff. Apparently, there's already so many other people doing that and such that, like, it's not really important. I think most people kind of understand that it's really stuff that you have to dig into yourself or just not at all. You know, me trying to push more music and television programs and film and such under your nose, it's going to be incredibly dated even as soon as I'm done recording a single episode, so there's no reason to go back and listen to it. It doesn't really say much about the state of the world, blah, blah, blah. It's not interesting. It's not fun to listen to. So we're not going to do that anymore. It's episode 2. The show completely goes to shit. Or maybe becomes something actually worth paying attention to. I don't know. Ages ago in lifetimes past, I used to have another show, well, shows even really, where I would just kind of like rant and talk about different topics and things that interested me or like made me want to turn on this microphone and yell into it. So we're going to do that. And hopefully that will be something that people might converse about, yell at me over, or at the very least be interested to hear. So we're going to do that instead. So to kick that off, something I just kind of, again, motivated me to turn on the microphone and start yelling. Some stuff that I was reading earlier that really pointed out to me the whole relationship between millennials and every other generation. We're starting out with kind of a big one, something we've been arguing over for years now, really. I'm originally part of what once was called Generation Y. I'm born in 1983. I'll be 34 next month. Jesus Christ. So once upon a time, there was Generation X, and we were after that. We were Generation Y. We were the first generation to have the internet as kind of a thing. It sort of came into its own. I was one of the first, here we go. I was one of the first kids to ever have it. My parents worked in business, finance, and for a local university, respectively, between my father and mother. And so we were hooked up with the internet so that my dad could communicate with his business partners, and mostly so that my mother could do like her administrative assistant stuff at home. So we got tapped into the internet back when that was only a thing that like universities, schools, and like the government had, which was kind of cool. I'm from like the proto days of the internet when the internet was like monochrome green screens full of like BBSs and multi-user dimensions, which were like your RuneScape, except you had to type to do everything. You know, that whole idea of like, you're in a room, obvious exits are north, west, and south kind of shit. Interesting games, but like nothing you would ever want to go back and play now. So I was part of that group. We were Generation Y. We were our own thing, but time has gone on, and these days we don't exist anymore. We're just, I'm now the old fart leading the, I don't know, whatever this is, this horrible ramshackle charge that is the millennial generation. And I really hate that term. I hate that I'm a part of this generation. You guys are great, but when it comes to me being sort of in the middle between the people who are older than me and then all of you guys who are younger than me, I have to say that dealing with the younger millennials is infinitely more frustrating than negotiating in the workplace, in society with the older generation. And maybe you might call me a traitor for that or something. I don't know. I don't care. And why is that? When I was in high school, I was a member of like our acceptance coalition when that was that was a brand new thing. Like I've been pushing for acceptance and tolerance since it began. I've marched for women's rights. I've, stood with my friends in all kinds of shit. I am a straight white male. Sorry. That's just me. I'm not personally subjected to a whole lot of intolerance, but that's not to say that I haven't had fantastic personal relationships with people who have, and have done as much as I can with the situation that I am to help them in that fight and be there like as much as I can on the front line. And it's really important that we continue to do that. Now, I bring that up because you guys are fucking up that fight so bad. You guys are fucking ruining that so hard. When I'm out there in the workplace and I'm arguing and I'm trying to, bring people into the water, so to speak, the older generation, people 40s, 50s, whatever, who didn't grow up with this, who don't quite understand it, negotiating with them, trying to get them on board this train, they often understand that they're wrong. They know that times have changed. They admit that their biases, their perceptions, like they know that they can't do that. They'll begrudgingly shrug, like, well, you can't say that anymore. And that sounds shitty. That does sound shitty. But they at least admit, and they know that what they're doing is wrong. They know they need to change. They know that that's not right anymore. And that's it. In that regard, we've kind of won a huge thing. What makes that really difficult is that a lot of the younger generations, the younger people in the millennial generation, I should say, you guys want 100% full supplication. You want people down on their hands and knees apologizing, immediate reform and conversion to the new rule. And that's just not how people work, So when you're out there tearing people down and starting this fight, and you want them to completely 100% roll over and admit that you're right on everything, you're not wrong. We're right. You're right. But that's just not how people work. It's a gradual process. You have to feed them the truth little bits at a time. It's not slamming down the whole book of law on their head at one time when they say some stupid off-color remark in the break room, or they fuck up and make a joke that they shouldn't have. That's not the time to just fucking stab a spit through them and roast them about it. You call them on it, but it's a totally different language and approach. There has to be compromise, and that's what you guys don't get. And that's what makes this so incredibly frustrating for me, kind of caught in the middle between these two groups as a mediator, who I agree with. I want everyone to be on our side. That's the truth. I agree with you guys 100%. I've been fighting this fight for decades now. But we gotta go slow. We still have to go slow. We've gained a lot of momentum. People know we're right. We know we're right. It's continuing to gain steam. We're getting there. But it's still not the time to just fucking explode on people on the internet or in public or wherever. When you do things like that, it erodes that goodwill, that compromise. There has to be some kind of level of forgiveness for people's insecurities, their misconceptions. They're just miseducation about how we have to relate to each other and value each other. They have existed for decades longer, and in systems where this was what they were taught. There may have been times when they even had these same questions, that's not right. And there were more people around at the time to stomp that out of them and bring them back to their side of the argument. A lot of these people probably had doubts about all kinds of values on the way here, but they just didn't have that environment where it was okay to question these things, and so they didn't. Or if they did question it, they had people around who reinforced the wrong side of the argument. So when you just kind of clobber the shit out of people online or in public or wherever else, you're right. They should see things the way that we do, but that's just not how you do it. You're creating enemies. You're driving people out and away. It's why the political system that we live in right now is the way that it is. It's why people are ashamed to talk about these kinds of things in public, why they vote the way they do, why they secretly fund the things that they do. And it drives me crazy because you guys don't want to hear this shit. You guys don't want to You guys want 100% the truth. You want to be, each and every single person wants to be seen as that, like, vigilante, that champion of the justice who, like, smote the person who said the dumb thing. Everybody wants to be the fucking hero. Nobody wants to be the person who hears a racist joke or a sexist, homophobic, transphobic comment and you kind of half laugh it off, but then you give them a look and you're kind of, hey, you know, I have friends like that, you know, that's not cool. You know, you ever think about such and such a thing? Nobody wants to have that, like, reasoned conversation that, like, yeah, that was probably funny once. I get it, but you shouldn't do that. You know, and that's the conversation that you need to have. That's the argument that we need to be having, the conversation that we need to be having, you know, a dozen times a day. Not the, what the fuck did you just say? I'm gonna fucking tweet this right now. Not the fucking, you know, get the goddamn, you know, get the pyre going, get the torches and pitchforks. We're gonna make an example out of this person. You can't do that. We got to stop doing that. We got to get away from that idea, that culture that, like, you know, whoever fucking just blasts the person who said the thing we don't like the worst is our hero for the day. We're not going to win the fight that way. We're losing the fight that way right now. Like, look at our fucking president. We're here. This got us here. And it drives me crazy. I don't have a whole lot else to say about that, but we got to fucking calm down with that. It's a compromise. It's a series of compromises, you know, so you have to put up with a little bit of the ugliness today so that you can just brighten it a little bit. It's a gradient. It's a gradual change. You know, we're slowly cleaning up the oil spill. We're not trying to dive in there and just leach it all out at once. It's not possible. You can't do that. People don't change overnight, but they do change. We can make people change if we give them a chance to change. Don't turn them into the villain. Let them be someone who has made a mistake. Let them be someone who has the wrong opinion about a thing, but could still be a good person if they correct that. And that's this rant for today. So, any questions or comments, anything like that, you can leave here in the comments, I guess on YouTube, where these will exist for a little bit. You can find me at awoofm@gmail.com. I'll be reposting these on Tumblr. If you see them there, feel free to yell at me there. I don't know how frequent these will be. I think I'm just going to keep making these kind of as the thing strikes me and I have single topics to scream and yell about. Or people give me things that I need to scream and yell about. I don't know. It is what it is. We're going to just go all organic, free-range bullshit with this. If you like it, let me know. If you hate it, then I guess you'll just ignore this completely.